Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Symposium on Leveraging Public Governance to Accelerate the Achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, Transformation, Innovation, and Inclusion. My name is Haekyung Shelley Choi, Program Management Assistant of the United Nations Project Office on Governance, DPIDG, UN DESA.
My name is Dana Samuel, an Associate Capacity Development Expert, United Nations Project Office on Governance of the Department of Public Institutions and Digital Government, UN DESA.
It is our great honor to be the MCs of today's program. I'd like to thank you all for your active participation and engaging discussions on the first day. And I also hope you have gained insights through the site visits. Today we have about more than 200 participants from 64 countries composed of national and local governments, CSOs, private sector, academia, and international organizations. All participants gather here today to share knowledge, exchange best practices in strengthening public institutions, innovating public services, and engaging whole societies to ensure that no one is left behind. Without further ado, we will now begin the high-level session. First, may I have the honor to invite His Excellency, Mr. Jin Young, Minister of the Interior and Safety of the Republic of Korea, to deliver his official remarks. Please welcome His Excellency with a big round of applause. Minister Jin's remarks will be delivered in Korean with English consecutive interpretation.
2019 UN 아시아 태평양 지역 SDG 심포지엄에 참석해 주신 모든 분들을 진심으로 환영합니다. 특히
I would like to wholeheartedly welcome all of you who are attending the 2019 UN Asia Pacific SDGs Symposium.
특히 UN 사무총장으로 계시면서 SDG 수립에 기여하셨고 지금은 SDG 전도사로 활동하고 계신 반기문 제8대 UN 사무총장님, 작년에 이어 올해도 함께 해주신 UN 경제사회처 유전민 사무차장님, 그리고 국제무대에서 UN 거버넌스 센터의 위상을 높이기 위해 노력하고 계신 정재근 원장님, 감사드립니다.
My special thanks go to Your Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the 8th UN Secretary General, who contributed to making the Sustainable Development Goals and now working as the missionary of the SDGs, trying to spread this goal around the world. And Your Excellency Mr. Liu Jianmin, Undersecretary General of the United Nations Economic and Social Affairs, who have come all the way to the symposium once again this year, following last year, and Honorable Mr. Jung Jae-geun, head of UNPOC, who is striving really hard to enhance the global standing of the UN Public Office on Governance.
올해로 3회째를 맞는 SDG 심포지엄에 역대 가장 많은 60여 개국 국가에서 참석하신 걸로 알고 있습니다.
I heard that this year's symposium, which marks its third anniversary, is the largest gathering so far, with about participants from 60 countries around the world.
이번 행사가 공공행정의 개선 방안 모색과 모범 사례의 확산을 통해 아태 지역의 SDG 이행을 촉진하는 플랫폼으로 자리 잡아가고 있는 것을 매우 뜻깊게 생각합니다.
I believe it is all the more meaningful that this symposium is serving as a valuable platform to facilitate the achievement of the SDGs in the Asia-Pacific region by seeking ways to improve public administration and spreading best practices.
지난 두 차례 심포지엄은 아태 지역 각국의 공공행정 발전 경험을 서로 나누고 지속가능한 개발을 위한 행정혁신과 전자정부 구축, 국민 참여의 중요성을 다시 한번 공유했던 귀중한 자리였습니다.
The previous two symposiums were very valuable occasions to share the Asia-Pacific countries' development experience in public governance and shared our consensus on the need for administrative innovation, e-government, and public participation for achieving sustainable development.
이러한 공감대를 바탕으로 이번 3차 심포지엄에서는 행정 혁신을 위한 기본 원칙들을 살펴보고 혁신 과정에서 발생 가능한 다양한 문제점과 그 해결 과정에 대한 생산적 논의가 이루어지기를 기대합니다.
Based on our consensus, I hope that the third symposium will give us a valuable opportunity to touch upon basic principles of administrative innovation and have a constructive discussion on identifying challenges and finding solutions in the process of government innovation.
대한민국 정부도 유엔을 비롯한 국제사회와 협력해서 SDG의 이행을 위해 더욱 노력해 나가겠습니다.
The Korean government will make further efforts by closely working together with the UN and the international community to facilitate the accomplishment of the SDGs.
오늘 심포지엄을 준비해 주신 모든 분들께 감사의 말씀을 드리며 참석하신 모든 분들의 건강과 행복을 기원합니다. 감사합니다.
Once again, I would like to express my deep gratitude to those who have prepared today's event for your hard work, and I wish good health and great happiness for everyone here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the very meaningful official remarks.
Next, I would like to take the opportunity to invite the Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs of the United Nations, Mr. Liu Zhenming, to deliver his official remarks. Please kindly welcome Mr. Liu with a big round of applause.
Your Excellency, Mr. Chen Yun, Minister of the Interior and Safety of the Republic of Korea, Your Excellency, Ms. Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Park Jung-ho, Vice Mayor of Incheon Metropolitan City, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to welcome you to the third regional symposium on leveraging public governance to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, transformation, innovation, and inclusion. I wish to express my appreciation to the Ministry of Interior and Safety of the Republic of Korea and to the Incheon Metropolitan City for their excellent support for this event. This is the third regional symposium organized by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UN DESA, and the Project Office on Governance, UNPOC. The regional symposium has become an important platform for member states to take knowledge, to share knowledge about bridging capacity gaps and adopting innovative practices. This is helping to pave the way for more effective South-South and North-South partnerships to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I attended the regional symposium in 2017 and 2018. I'm pleased to witness that every year the symposium attracts the highest number of participants from across the region, including governments, public institutions, civil society organizations, academia, and the private sector. This attests to the significance of the event. The follow-up actions from the previous regional symposia have also demonstrated the positive impact of the discussions, notably in mainstreaming the SDGs and adopting innovative ideas in public service delivery. Excellencies, world leaders gathered at the United Nations headquarters during the high-level week of the 74th session of the General Assembly in September to launch an accelerated response to achieve the 2030 Agenda. The SDG Summit was the overarching event of the high-level week of the General Assembly. We witnessed great cause for optimism in the commitment to the 2030 Agenda, seen at the highest level of government and among many stakeholders. This was evident in adoption by consensus of the political declaration and in the launch of a decade of action to deliver the SDGs by 2030. To be sure, achieving sustainable development is facing formidable challenges. There is a sense of urgency as the world is not on track to meet the SDGs. Slowing economic growth, rising inequality, and the devastating effects of climate change are placing at risk the prospects of a better future for all. Yet, there is a strong conviction that we can still reach the goals of 2030 Agenda if we accelerate our actions. Strengthening institutions for more integrated solutions is one key SDG accelerator. Our governance systems and policies must be transformed to support more inclusive societies that benefit people of all ages. Effective, accountable, and transparent institutions can ensure more responsive and inclusive decision-making processes. Indeed, there are many innovative policies emerging across the region on how to make the public institutions more effective, accountable, and inclusive. These are in line with the Sustainable Development Goals 16 and with the 11 principles of effective governance for sustainable development, which were endorsed by the Economic and Social Council in 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, the holistic and universal 2030 Agenda provides an integrated framework for the SDGs. This is why mainstreaming SDGs at the national level helps to ensure a coordinated approach across government structures. At the same time, strengthening public institutions must be coupled with the public sector innovation. Advancements in technology characterized by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data analytics provide huge potential for developing countries to improve public services and transform governance. Yet, leveraging friendly technologies for agile governance and better public service delivery call for an ecosystem that addresses both opportunities and risks associated with new technologies. This in turn requires collaboration with the private sector, particularly with ICT industries, civil society organizations, and citizens. I also wish to highlight that public sector innovation cannot happen without competent and motivated public servants. It is necessary to equip public servants with the capacities to bolster cooperation across government departments. It is therefore essential that public service servants are motivated to do their best and strive for excellence. Many countries in the region have started to reshape civil service with reforms aimed at integrating sustainable development principles into public administration. Public servants are at the front line of service delivery. This is why strengthening the capacities of public servants is the key to the success of any institutional reform. It is also important to ensure that the public services are gender sensitive. Women play an important role in decision-making processes and must be given a fair chance to ascend to leadership positions. Distinguished participants, through the regional forums, I hope you will be able to learn from one another how to address these numerous challenges. I hope, moreover, that you gain new insights on how to accelerate SDGs implementation through governance transformation and enhanced innovation. inclusive public service delivery and policy making processes. I wish you a productive symposium. I thank you.
Thank you, Undersecretary General, Mr. Lee.
Now, it is my great pleasure to invite Mr. Park Nam-chun, Mayor of Incheon Metropolitan City, the hosting city of UNPOG, to deliver welcome remarks. Mayor Park's welcoming remarks will be read by Vice Mayor Park Jun-ha. Please welcome Mr. Park with a big round of applause. Mayor Park's remarks will be delivered in Korean with English consecutive interpretation.
안녕하십니까. 반갑습니다. 인천광역시 행정부시장 박준호입니다. 제3회 아태지역 지속가능 개발 목표 심포지엄 참가를 위해 인천을 방문해 주신 유천민 유엔 사무차장님과 진영 행정안전부 장관님 그리고 반기문 전 유엔 사무총장을 비롯한 회의 참가자 여러분을 300만 인천 시민과 함께 진심으로 환영합니다.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Park Jun-ha, Vice Mayor for the Administrative Affairs of Incheon Metropolitan City of Korea. First, with all 3 million Incheon citizens, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you here today at the 3rd Asia-Pacific Regional Symposium on SDGs. Especially, I'd like to thank Mr. Liu Seong-min, Undersecretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Jin Young, Minister of the Interior and Safety of Korea, Mr. Pan Gi-moon, former Secretary General of the United Nations, and all the other participants from abroad for visiting Incheon to attend this significant event.
또한 행사를 주관해 주신 유엔 거버넌스 센터 정재근 원장님과 관계자 여러분의 노고에 대해서도 깊은 감사의 말씀을 드립니다.
I also would like to thank the head of the UNPOG, Mr. Jung Jae-geun, and all of his staff members for exerting the numerous efforts in preparing this meaningful event.
인천시는 세계적인 공항, 항만, 그리고 경제 자유국을 바탕으로 역동적인 국제도시로 빠르게 성장하고 있으며 이번 행사를 준비한 UN 거버넌스 센터를 비롯해서 GCF, UNESCA 등 15개의 국제기구가 위치한 국제적인 도시입니다.
Incheon City, based on its world-class airport, seaport, and free economic zone, is rapidly growing into a dynamic international city. It is home to 15 international organizations, including the GCF, UNESCA, and UNPOG, the organizer of today's symposium.
특히 국내외에서 성공적인 사례로 평가받고 있는 인천 경제자유구역은 스마트 시티, 저탄소 친환경 도시로 아시아의 물류 허브이자 국제적인 비즈니스, 첨단 산업, 금융, 레저 도시로 조성되고 있습니다.
In particular, the Incheon Free Economic Zone, or IFET, is held up as a successful, smart, and low-carbon city at home and abroad. So now Incheon City exerts its effort to transform IFET into a regional hub for logistics, high-tech industries, finance, leisure, and international business.
이번 심포지움은 아시아 태평양 지역의 지속 가능 개발 목표 이행을 위한 회원국들의 경험을 공유하고 현안 발굴을 목적으로 개최되는 회의로 알고 있습니다. 지속 가능 개발 목표는 유엔과 국가 차원에서의 논의뿐만 아니라 시민들의 일상생활과 밀접한 관련이 있는 지방정부의 역할 또한 중요할 것입니다.
I understand that today's symposium is a platform for member countries to share their experience of implementing SDGs and identify pressing issues that need to be addressed, focusing on the Asia-Pacific region. In order to implement SDGs, the role of local government, as well as discussions at the UN and at the national level, is crucial because the work of municipalities is closely related to the day-to-day lives of citizens.
이번 심포지움을 통해서 국제사회의 지속 발전을 위한 합리적이고 효율적인 아이디어가 많이 도출되기를 기대합니다. 아무쪼록 인천에 머무시는 동안 건강히 유의하시고 또 인천의 정치를 느껴보시는 뜻깊은 시간을 보내시기 바랍니다. 아울러 심포지움에 함께 자리를 해주신 모든 분들 건강과 행운이 함께 하시길 기원합니다. 감사합니다.
I expect that the symposium will produce reasonable and efficient ideas on sustainable development of the international community. In closing, I hope that you can also enjoy this clear skies and beautiful scenery of autumn in Korea, and I wish all of you good health and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Park, for the warm, welcoming remarks.
Next, may I have the great honor to invite His Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his special address. Mr. Ban has led and guided the intergovernmental processes that resulted in the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in 2015. Mr. Ban is continuing his dedication to global peace and prosperity. He set up the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizenship in 2017 and the Ban Ki-moon Foundation for a Better Future in 2019 to further advance the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you for your very warm introduction. Your Excellency, Mr. Chin Young, Minister of Interior and Safety of the Republic of Korea, Honorable Eugene Mint, Undersecretary General of the United Nations, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, welcome to Korea again. Honorable Park Jun-ha, Vice Mayor of Incheon Metropolitan City, thank you for your statement on behalf of Mayor Bang Nam-chun. And I'd like to also recognize Professor Kim Eun-mi, Ewha Women's University's Graduate School, and Mr. Chung Jae-gun, head of the UN UNPO, Mr. Anwar Sanusi, Secretary General of the Ministry of Village Development of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to take this opportunity to say a few words on this very important symposium on leveraging public governance to accelerate the achievement of the SDGs. I'd like to thank Minister Chin Young for your very kind recognition about my role as sort of missionary of Sustainable Development Goals. I'm very much proud that these SDGs were adopted during my time as the Secretary General. And this is one of the three proudest achievements which I did during my time as the Secretary General. One is the Climate Change Agreement, Paris, which was adopted in Paris the same year, SDG, and the women's empowerment, which I really did passionately to really level up the status of women in every aspect of our life. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I'd like to really thank and congratulate on holding this very important meeting here in Incheon Metropolitan City. My sincere congratulations on the realization of the important symposium, which comes at a critical time for both the Asia-Pacific region and our collective efforts to accelerate achievement on SDGs. My gratitude goes to the United Nations DESA, the Ministry of Interior and Safety of Korea, and Incheon Metropolitan City for your hard work in support of this symposium. To all of the distinguished delegates and government officials who have traveled here from 27 Asia-Pacific countries, I'm honored to welcome you all to my country. Ladies and gentlemen, your ongoing role as a sustainable development focal point, public administrators, and ICT and innovation experts is essential as we strive to achieve the SDGs and succeed in leaving no one behind. The basic philosophical background, motto, vision is that nobody should be left behind, regardless of what you are, whether you are a person with disabilities, whether you are having a different sexual orientation, whether you are living in developed or developing countries, whatever you may be, one may be, that nobody should be left behind. That is a very important vision. Ladies and gentlemen, changes to the international order are ushering in a new period of global unpredictability and risk. Indeed, we have witnessed many seismic geopolitical changes in the past 4 years since the adoption of these SDGs at the United Nations. Threats to traditional alliances, increased trade disputes, and resurgent nationalism have all complicated multilateral cooperation when the world needs it the most. As a former Secretary General, I cannot but express my deepest concern about what is going on. The multilateralism is under attack. Multilateralism has been the backbone, basic framework of international community, particularly since the end of Second World War. Having seen such tragic consequences, where 60 million people were killed during the Second World War, the world's leaders were united that we should never repeat this kind of a tragedy. That's why they have established the United Nations. As a former Secretary General, I'm asked by many people, is the United Nations united? How to unite the United Nations in this divided world? That is very serious questions I'm asked. As a former Secretary General, I do not have any answer. I can only criticize those people who really try to disrupt this multilateral systems. Those countries who have been taking leadership role during the last 7 decades, believing in multilateralism, are now shying away from this multilateralism, from the United Nations. Big countries are stepping from the United Nations Commission on Human Rights, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Change Agreement, disrupting these multilateral trading systems, threatening World Trade Organization. That's what we have to really prevent. I sincerely hope that you discuss this matter to address and to make sure that Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, can give good guidelines to make this world better for all, to make everybody peaceful, more prosperous, more secure. This is what I am asking world leaders to share more moral, political responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, as 2019 closes, it seems like our planet is again on fire. The earth is having fever. When your children are having fever, you must go to the doctors. All the causes of disease comes when your body has a fever. All the causes will come when our planet Earth is having fever. We have to really cool down this temperature. Last July was the hottest month in the world since last 140 years. That is an alarm. That is the wrath of nature. Unless we really take urgent and drastic measures to address the climate change agreement, there will be no hope for our succeeding generations and our planet Earth. We need to be able to live harmoniously with our nature. Nature does not negotiate with a human being. Nature does go its own way. So it's only natural that our human being must follow the voices of nature before the wrath of nature hit human society. We have again to show our moral, political responsibility before it will be too late. Ladies and gentlemen, over the last year, we have witnessed tens of millions of people take to the streets to make their voices heard. Such a global protest, while unique within their own national context, also share many underlying connective threads that we should all take note. I was in New York last September. On September 23rd, you must have heard this young Swedish girl, Greta Thunberg, speaking out to the world leaders. There were at least 150 global leaders sitting in the General Assembly Hall. I was sitting in the VIP section. I watched her speaking. She said, "Because you have not kept your promise, you have taken my future, you have taken my dream, I will never forgive you." What a powerful message for a young girl. Now this movement is now taking place even in Korea. I'm very, very much impressed that these young voices are now taking to the street, to the schools. This includes, again, frustrations with rising inequality and austerity, anger at corruption and institutions, and demands to increase the urgency in addressing climate change. Under this backdrop, I firmly believe that achieving the SDGs can help bring us together in this era of expanding discord and simultaneously pave the path to equality. The SDGs vision for our shared future, as I said, is no one should be left behind. In order to meet this noble aspiration, it is absolutely essential to scale up transformation, innovation, and inclusion by all stakeholders in the region, including here in Asia Pacific, and particularly by public governance officials. 4 years since its adoption, SDG has made tangible progress on bettering maternal mortality rates, tackling poverty and hunger, and improving the quality of water and sanitation. But progress is uneven. I'm asking world leaders, and including Republic of Korean government, take a stronger ownership. Without strong ownership, this can never be implemented. There are again some pessimistic views, whether and if the SDGs can be completed and met its target by the end of 2030. We have only 11 years to go now. According to a German foundation, Bertelsmann's Foundation, which was released this summer, they have evaluated the progress report of at least 70 countries, or among 193 member states. Among the best performing 20 countries, from 1 to 20, they are mostly European countries. most of the African countries, Southeast Asian countries are falling behind 100. Among best 20 performing countries, there are only 4 non-European countries. They are New Zealand, Canada, Japan, and Republic of Korea. They say South Korea, Republic of Korea. I was relieved that my own country at least belongs to one of the 20 best performing countries, but that's not enough. I'm asking my government Korea to do much, much more. Korea should show best example as the only country, the first and the only country who has transcended from donor receiving country to donor giving country. So we should be proud, but before being proud, we should do much more. I'm asking Honorable Minister Jin to raise this issue with the President and in the government, the cabinet meetings. Thank you much for in advance. Ladies and gentlemen, to achieve the SDGs by 2030, we need all hands on deck. All hands on deck. Where everyone joins together in partnership to harness ownership, stronger ownership, participation, and the active improvement from all sectors of society. Crucially, we also need increased political will and policy changes on the part of governments and public officials like you to scale up investment, innovation, and action in fields such as education, health, social protection, and the environment. And refocusing our unified efforts to achieving Goal 16 of the 2030 Agenda, which calls for effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels everywhere, is absolutely necessary, as SDG 16 is a true enabler of all the other goals. As you will know very well, there was some very sensitive negotiation at the time when SDGs was finally approaching to the end. Goal 16, justice, strong institutions. Particularly donor countries were insisting that without these strong institutions and justice and fairness, then all the goals may be, even though they might be achieved, may be in vain, when all these corruptive practices may just prevail in the process of this implementing sustainable development goals, then just nothing. Therefore, it has a very important meaning to implement Sustainable Development Goals number 16. First, we need to understand that transformation is both a mindset and an essential ingredient to accelerate necessary and interconnected policy initiatives. We need leadership that is transformative to rebuild the trust of citizens and boost the reputation of the critical role of public servants, government officials, and public sector more largely. We must do a better job of communicating with the constituents, citizens, and providing them with a guiding stake in public decision making. Second, to kickstart this type of transformation, public officials, government officials must pursue new approaches to innovation. In that, I think UNPOG can play a very important role to discuss with the civil society, our citizens, and even government officials. This should move beyond the reliance on ICT delivery of public services towards broader, multidimensional approaches. Over the next 11 years, We must make sure that progress in innovation, science, and technology will be essential in delivering on all the SDGs, from poverty eradication to agriculture, food security, energy, water, sanitation, and eliminate a climate crisis. Third, we must understand, however, that inclusiveness remains an essential pillar for fulfilling all the SDGs. Whether it is women or children, people with disabilities, immigrants and refugees, elderly or other marginalized communities, we simply cannot move forward without first ensuring that they are all on board. In this connection, I believe that education, particularly global citizenship education, can help boost inclusion and empowerment at all levels and facilitate SDG gains. I have been already raising this issue, how to educate the young people. After 10 years, and even including 3 years now as a former Secretary General, I realized that I have been speaking all the times with the existing generation, your generation, our generation. But what we are doing is to make sure that our succeeding generation can live in prosperity and harmony and security without feeling climate risk. Therefore, I've been speaking out recently that Korean government and all the governments around the world must include this due curriculum, due educational systems, starting from elementary, middle, and high school, so that by the time they take leadership role in our society, then it will become part of their body. I was encouraged, as was already reported in the newspapers, that Italian Minister of Education had already announced that all Italian students, elementary, middle, high school, will have to have at least 31 hours of classes on climate and sustainable development. This is something our government should take action. I'm going to recommend and meet Deputy Prime Minister and Education Minister on this matter. I hope you will give us full support on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude. We can, if we work together, we can create the future we want. When we negotiated this SDGs, our question through United Nations website was asking all the citizens around the world, what kind of world do you want? That was the main question. We can now create the future we want, one that is anchored in inclusion, empowering women, and sustainability for all people and our planet. And the Asia-Pacific vision can lead by example. That's why you are here. The public sector is essential in delivering the knowledge, skills, and guiding values required to construct a more inclusive, sustainable, and peaceful world. As such, I humbly call all of you to harness your efforts to enhance transformation, innovation, and inclusion in your own countries to accelerate achievement of the SDGs. With your continued active leadership and engagement, I am confident that the SDGs can help unite the world through cooperation and partnership in Asia and the Pacific and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, let us work together to make this world better for all. I thank for your leadership. Thank you very much.
Excellency for the inspiring special address.
Now, we will invite two distinguished speakers to deliver their keynote speech. The first speaker is Mr. Anwar Sanusi, Secretary General of Ministry of Village Development of Disadvantaged Region and Transmigration of Indonesia. Please welcome Secretary General Sanusi with a big round of applause.
A very good morning, Your Excellency, Mr. Jin Yong, Ministry of Interior and Safety, Republic of Korea, Mr. Liu Zhenmin, Undersecretary General, United Nations, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, DESA, Mr. Park Nam-chun, Mayor, Incheon Metropolitan City, Your Excellency, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, Ms. Kim Eun-mi, a professor, Graduate School of International Study, Iowa Women University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by expressing my appreciation to the government of the people of Republic of Korea and the United Nations, Department of Economic and Social Affairs for your warm welcome and invitation to attend the symposium. I am deeply honored to represent the Indonesian government at the symposium and share our commitment to 2030 agenda. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the latest SDG index, Indonesia ranks as 102nd country. It has been quite a long road to get there, another long road to get where we invited to. But I can proudly say that our commitment on the 2030 agenda has never deterred. Indonesia has a strong commitment to attainment of the SDGs that the President himself even directly involved in becoming the head of the National Guiding Committee of SDGs. Further, SDGs targets have been incorporated in Indonesia Development Plan, including Indonesian visions. We call it as 9 ideals, Nawacita, and our medium-term National Development Plan, 2015-2019, and continue again for the medium National Development Plan 2020 and 2024 under the President Jokowi administration. Indonesia also became one of the countries that conduct a voluntary national review and publish its progress report regularly. As a matter of fact, Sustainable Development Agenda of all SDGs is not a new term in Indonesia. Global issues that are addressed in SDGs have been incorporated in Indonesia's long-term vision. This implies that the issues faced by the global population are also relevant to the current Indonesian development challenge. Accordingly, Indonesia's commitment to achieve SDG is not merely about fulfilling global agreement, but also about accomplishing Indonesian vision of increasing people of well-being. To leave no one behind is the central promise of the 2030 agenda. And in line with this idea, Indonesia put emphasis on sustainability development of human development agenda, such as poverty, hunger, gender justice, and the fulfillment of access to the water and sanitation, as they are always strategic issues. The government had also made a massive reform on its rural development programs by the establishment of the Ministry of the Village, that has a task to overview implementation of Law Number 624 on village Since more than 70% of the population live in villages and rural areas, so Indonesians strongly believe that develop the nation, we should focus on the development of our village, our rural areas, including improving quality of human life in aspects such as social security, education, healthy, by creating sustainable economic development, and that focuses on inclusive economic growth. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, various policy and social protection, security in reformation, village fund contribute to a decreased poverty level from 11.25% in 2014 to 9.14% in 2019. The decrease of poverty level in rural areas is relatively faster compared to the one in urban areas. This is a result of Village Fund program and the allocation of Village Fund, which targets directly to village and people and rural communities. Village Fund also contribute to the decreasing unemployment rate in villages of 1.21% from August 2015 to February 2018. Indonesia's other achievements in terms of SDG include an increase of household access to clean water, which reached 76.7%, and increased health coverage through National Health Insurance and Indonesian Health Card. We call it as Jaminan Kesehatan Nasional, which reached 83.94% from total population in Indonesia in May 2019. Having achieved the single-digit poverty rate, would leave Indonesia with a bigger challenge in eradicating the extreme poverty completely, because we all know that the lower the poverty rate, the harder it is to eradicate, as it has become more difficult to reach the remaining poor, who often has a complex set of circumstances that make it hard to go out of poverty. Remote areas they live in, limited access to the health care, schools, electricity, and clean water. Furthermore, aligned with reducing the number of the poor, we also have to ensure that the people already above the poverty line will not move into poverty. Poverty eradication policy, those should go about macroeconomic stability. And in the micro level, it should go about enhancing the school protection program and productivity economy. One program that Indonesia would like to share is about, we call it as Village on Enterprise. A business entity that has all or most its capital owned by the village through direct participation, originating from village revenue to the maximum possible extent of prosperity for the village community. The Village on Enterprise is a promising prospect for strengthening and empowering the village economic institution. This is a cross-cutting enabler that has given significant contribution for developing new ways and means to address factors that hinder other core enablers. It refers not only the use of resources to create efficiency, but also refers to innovation and facilitating collaborative co-designing and testing solutions for achieving the SDGs. Moving forward to social protection, Indonesia continues its effort to reach every individual, whether through social assistance or social insurance, and including the most poor, vulnerable. Social assistance aims to prevent families from falling below poverty line and is a form of support as well as an investment in resources such as health and education assistance, whereas social insurance aims to provide adequate protection from working period until the end of citizen life and needs to be fully funded by contributory scheme. Various schemes have been implemented to reach this objective. A major reform was improving the targeting performance of Indonesian major social assistance portfolio, including food assistance for the poor family, education assistance for the poor children, conditional cash transfer for the poor families, and subsidized beneficiaries of the National Health Insurance Program. Based on Indonesian national experience achieving the Sustainable Development Goals target requiring strong collaboration among stakeholders and commitment both in activities and funding, good governance participation and rule of law are the key element for increasing public trust. The cornerstones of international partnership is multilateralism. We need effective and inclusive international institutions in order to deliver on the SDGs. We have to work together to preserve and strengthen the rules-based international order. SDGs represent a great business opportunities. That is why we need to strengthen the cooperation with the business sector and engagement of the private finance in 2030 agenda implementation. Business sector drive technology innovation and prosperity. International trade has to be the engine of sustainable development. To sum up, we need to ensure a broad active participation all stakeholders in the 2030 agenda implementation and its follow-up mechanism. Finally, SDG is a universal goal, of which its accomplishment could not be assigned solely on the government. And as the goals and target in SDG cover the environment, social economic governance, and partnership issue, there will not be a single formula to accomplish them. Particularly in Indonesia with its more than 1,340 ethnic groups that vary in culture, language, and belief, it will require a multidisciplinary approach which also involves various stakeholders ranging from government, academicians, NGO, private sectors, and the whole society to achieve the goals in SDGs. Achieving such ambitious agenda in a relatively short period of time will require all stakeholders to walk an extra mile. Through a sharing of our experience, best practices, knowledge, I'm pretty sure that we could efficiently utilize limited resources to give optimal benefit to each of our country in various sustainable development priorities. We can make it, but only together. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sanusi, for your wonderful keynote speech.
Now, I would like to take the opportunity to invite Dr. Kim Eun-mi, professor at the Graduate School of International Studies, Ewha National Women's University, for her keynote address. Professor Kim is a member of the independent group of scientists appointed by the United Nations Secretary General for the Global Sustainable Development Report 2019. Professor Kim will be delivering this keynote address. Please join me in welcoming her with a big, warm round of applause.
Good morning. The 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Mr. Jin Young, the Minister of Ministry of Interior and Safety of Republic of Korea, Mr. Liu Jin-min, Undersecretary General of UN DESA, who helped us with this report, Mr. Bang Nam-chun, Mayor of the Intermetropolitan City, Mr. Jae Gun-chung, Head of UN POG, who organized this event, and Minister Anwar Sanusi of Indonesia, who just gave a keynote speech. It is my great honor and pleasure to talk to you about the Global Sustainable Development Report that we produced under the orders of Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Of course, this is about the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, or Leave No One Behind. If I may add one more thing that I remember Mr. Ban Ki-moon telling us is save our planet. I think leave no one behind and save our planet are the two key mottos of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. The report that my colleagues and I have worked on is the Global Sustainable Development Report, the first one published just this year. The UN member states had requested the Secretary General to appoint an independent and critical group of scientists to work on a critical assessment of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I was very honored to be one of the 15 scientists who are appointed to this independent group of scientists. Actually, Secretary General Ban signed our appointment letter on the final day of his office at the UN, December 31, 2016. So we were very honored that I had the last drop of ink from his office. The independent group of scientists are 15. These are the two co-chairs, one from Edna from Indonesia and Peter from Switzerland. Many of the slides come from Peter's work. And these are the scientists. We come from many different countries around the world. We represent different genders. We represent different academic disciplines who all came together to study the SDGs. We took inspiration from our common future, the Brundtland report that was published in 1987, also under the auspices of the UN World Commission on Environment and Development. We were very happy and sad at the same time. 1987 was just 30 years before we started the work on the independent report of SDGs. We were very happy because many of the messages that we were trying to come up with were quite similar from 30 years ago. But we were also very sad because we had to talk about the same things all over again. Nothing had changed. More had to change, and the time was really ticking very quickly. We noted that even back in 1987, we were still talking about environment and development that need to be brought together, the same challenge that we have in 2017. The process of GSDR 2019, we had the able support of the UN DESA team, which Mr. Liu heads. UN DESA supported us along with other UN agencies, UNEP, UNCTAD, UNDP, UNESCO, and the World Bank. And we met for 2.5 years in a very intensive setting. We tried to communicate with governments, NGOs, anyone who were interested and involved in SDGs. We also did a scientific review of our report to make sure that this was scientifically sound. This September, we produced the first GSDR 2019. This is supposed to happen every 4 years, but we were very honored to be the first report writers. The 2019 report came out in September ahead of the General Assembly. It's called The Future is Now. We can no longer talk about the common future we want, but we noted with great alarm, the future is now. If we don't make changes now, today, the future will not be ours. So our report is called The Future is Now, Science for Achieving Sustainable Development. We presented our report to the Secretary General on September 10th, and then on September 24th, at the side of the General Assembly, we had a GSDR fireside chat, and I was very honored to be a part of that. Let me share with you some key messages that came out of the report. The first one is, we have 11 years, but we just have 1 decade left. We have to sound the alarm bell that we need to scale up and accelerate implementation. Let me share with you, there are 4 areas that we're actually going backwards, not just on target. Some we are moving slowly, but in 4 areas we're actually going backwards. The first one is rising inequalities around the world. We have done a lot with MDGs where we try to reduce the gap between countries, but we're noticing with great alarm that inequalities within countries have been rising in many, many parts of the world. Biodiversity loss and climate change mitigation are also two that we're actually going backwards. We need to scale up and turn the direction now. One other thing that's not on the slide is the ecological footprint. The waste that we put into our ecosystem is far greater than what the nature can absorb and process. So these 4 areas in which we must move quickly unless SDGs will not be met. An important lesson that we had from our report is we were bringing knowledge-based transformations. The first insight is we have to move from silos to transformation to a systems approach. So the first insight that we had in writing this report is that we have to work in systems. In moving forward, we have to look at the interactions among the different goals. Some have trade-offs and some have co-benefits. So how do we address and reduce the trade-offs at the same time harnessing the co-benefits? This only happens when we see this as integrated and a transformative process in totality, rather than in silos, rather than cherry-picking the goals. We have to see them together. And one important way to do this is to use a systems approach. The second important insight that we had is we must use levers for change. We also noted that this is a very hyper-connected world. We talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution, when information and knowledge is transformed and invented in lightning speed. You can see from the graph that all the changes that we feel like is part of our lives these days only happened the last couple of decades. The speed is alarmingly quick. It means that we're so interconnected that what we do in this part of the world will have impact almost at the same time the other part of the world. So we are alarmed by this trend, but we also see great advantages of taking advantage of this hyper-connected world. If we are able to change one area, we're able to make transformative changes to the whole. The third very important insight that we have from our report is that we have a universal goal of sustainable development goals, but we also have to recognize that local areas, local communities may have different issues and conditions. So in our pursuing of the SDGs, we have to make sure that we understand deeply that one size does not fit all. We have to understand the local context. We have to take advantage of local knowledge in order to make sure that we go for this common universal goal. So this is sort of the masterpiece of our report, Pathways to Transformation for Sustainability. So we're showing at the top 6 areas, entry points for transformation. In order for us to achieve SDGs, we suggested that we use systems like the food system, energy system, in order to understand how we can implement the 17 SDG goals. If you take food system, for example, you can talk about reducing hunger, but you can talk about biodiversity in our agricultural products. We can talk about waste. We can talk about saving the environment. So using the systems approach allows us to implement the 17 goals in a very comprehensive, integrated way. The 4 levers that we suggested, the governance lever is one of them, allows us to use these leverages to quickly transform our world in a much more meaningful way. The summary of the key points is this was an evidence-based research for SDGs. We didn't really pay attention to the political discussions, but we really used the scientific evidence to bear upon the Sustainable Development Goals. And then the policy recommendations in the red, the last couple of lines is, we have to have strong political will. We need to be able to make hard choices and make SDGs top priority, as Secretary General Ban Ki-moon just said a few minutes ago. We have to to talk about the alarming need to move quickly now. We only have 10 years left, but we wanted to end the SDG Sustainable Development Report on a positive note. That we thought these 6 entry points for transformation and 4 levers will be a positive, constructive way to move forward quickly so that we can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Now, in this symposium, I was asked to talk a little bit about public governance. The SDG governance is critical as it's a key enabler, as Secretary General just has said. It's a key enabler as Sustainable Goal number 16, but also in our report, we recognize this is a key lever for transforming our world. The governance in SDGs, the state's commitment, the global governance for SDGs, that national, subnational, and local context must all realize and take advantage of the public governance in order to facilitate and move toward SDGs. We know that governments as primary actors, but we also need to make sure that they work closely with other key actors, such as the private sector, civil society, and all. So the public governance institutions and actors are key facilitators, but they all must work together in partnership with the private sector and the civil society, and this has to be done at the community level, national level, but at the international level. So with all of us working toward this common goal, but understanding the local differences, I think this is the way forward for sustainable development goals. The future is now if we act now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kim, for the insightful keynote speech.
Before closing the high-level session, I'd like to acknowledge the following dignitaries. Professor Emeritus An Moon-seok of Korea University. He is recognized as the founding father of Korea's e-government. He served as the co-chairman of the e-government promotion committee with the Minister of the Interior and Safety. Next is Her Excellency Ms. Adalgisa Jimenez, Ambassador of Embassy of Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste to the Republic of Korea. Next is His Excellency Mr. Abdul Hakim Ataruk, Ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan to the Republic of Korea. Thank you, Your Excellencies. This concludes the high-level session. I'd like to thank all distinguished speakers for their insightful and meaningful remarks.
Now we would like to move to the photo session. Please kindly take note of the following. I would like to invite all 6 speakers to come on stage for the group photo, the first group photo. May I invite Minister Chin, Mr. Ban, USG, Mr. Liu, Vice Mayor Park, Mr. Sanusi, and Professor Kim to the stage, please. Next, Ambassador for Timor-Leste and Ambassador Afghanistan from Afghanistan. Okay, next, I invite all the VIPs on the first, second row to join in the picture. So you can join from behind. And you okay. Okay, thank you very much.